Two of the UK's biggest theme parks, but which one is truly the best? Alton Towers, home to iconic roller coasters like Nemesis Reborn, the Smiler and the Wicker Man, or Thorpe Park, the adrenaline capital, featuring Hyperia, Stealth, the Swarm, and Soar the Ride. Today we're putting them head to head in a battle of thrills, theming, and the overall experience. This is Alton Towers versus Thorpe Park. Let's get into it. But first, before we get on into it, if you do enjoy watching, then please hit that like button to let me know. And if you are new around here, then please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing, because we make plenty of theme park and adventure videos here, which you don't want to miss. Before we get on into what's actually inside the park and all the different rides, let's talk about what comes first before you even enter the park, and that is the ticket price. So in 2025, the current price for a day ticket to Alton Towers, if you book in advance, is from £29. The on the gate price is from £68, so, you know, always book in advance because that's over double the amount. It also depends on when you visit. The price is from £29, so if you visit during an event, then the price could be a bit higher. So over to Thorpe Park, and they actually match the exact same entry price as Alton Towers. It's also from £29. With the price of entry being exactly the same at both theme parks, I can't award a point for either being the cheapest, so they're both going to get a point for this one. So heading inside Alton Towers now, and this park, it has over 40 rides and attractions, including 10 main roller coasters. I could go through every single ride and attraction at Alton Towers, but that would take me a very long time, so we're just going to stick with those 10 roller coasters for now. And those 10 roller coasters are the Smiler, the Wicker Man, Oblivion, Nemesis Reborn, Spinball Wizard, 13, Rita, Galactica, the Runaway Mine Train, and Octonauts. All are very different and unique roller coasters, not one of them is the same, and that creates a wide variation of roller coasters at the UK's biggest theme park. The Smiler has a world record 14 inversions. Oblivion, it's the world's first vertical drop roller coaster. 13, that was the world's first freefall drop roller coaster. The Wicker Man was the first coaster to fuse wood with fire, and Galactica, that was the first B&M flying roller coaster. All very different roller coasters, all very unique, and that means that pretty much everybody has a different opinion on what their favourite ride is at the park. My personal favourite is Nemesis Reborn, but if you prefer a roller coaster with inversions, then the Smiler may be your favourite, and if you like theming, then maybe the Wicker Man is your favourite. Each roller coaster stands out in this park, and that's why I'm going to be awarding it 1 point. However, one of the negatives about some of the roller coasters at Alton Towers is that they could do a bit of revamping, a bit of a clean. The Smiler is looking a bit gross in some places, and some of the theming and queue line for Oblivion is a little bit outdated. It would be good to see this updated over the next few years, but overall, Alton Towers has some great rides and roller coasters, some of my favourites here in the UK. Over to Thorpe Park now, and Thorpe Park, it is a lot smaller than Alton Towers, which means it doesn't really have the room for as many rides and attractions as Alton Towers. In fact, it has around 25 rides and attractions, which is almost half of what Alton Towers has. However, having said that, Thorpe Park, it's home to some of the best rides and roller coasters in this country. We have to start with Hyperia. This is my personal favourite roller coaster in the UK. It's the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the whole country. It's a height of 236 feet and speeds up to 81 miles per hour. It's such a good roller coaster, and there's honestly nothing like it in the UK. Like, I feel lucky to have Hyperia so close to home. But it's not just Hyperia that stands out in this park. You also have roller coasters such as the Swarm, Stealth, Soar the Ride, Nemesis Inferno, the Walking Dead the Ride, Colossus, and of course, the Flying Fish. Again, just like with Alton Towers, all these roller coasters are different and unique in their own ways. The Swarm was the UK's first winged coaster and has one of the best first drops out there, as it inverts in on itself. It also has incredible theming and a story. Stealth was the fastest and tallest in the UK before Hyperia, but even though it's no longer the champion, it's still one of the best. Saw the Ride was the first roller coaster based off a horror film and has that iconic beyond vertical drop. Colossus at one point was the world record holder for the most inversions. That was before the Smiler came along. Some world class coasters at Thorpe Park, and in my opinion, I actually prefer the roller coasters at Thorpe Park over Alton Towers. Therefore, I'm going to be giving Thorpe Park not 1 point, I'm going to be giving them 2 points for this one. Alton Towers, it may be bigger, but, you know, sometimes it's not always about the size. Having said that though, both parks have fantastic rides and attractions. Going back over to Alton Towers, there is a whole area inside the park packed full of attractions for younger guests in CBeebies Land. You also have the World of David Walliams, which also has rides aimed at the younger guests. Thorpe Park, they do have family rides, but with Alton Towers, they really cater to every single age group, and that's why I'm going to be giving them another point. Now that we've spoken about the rides, let's talk about the theming. Now, Alton Towers, it's the bigger theme park out of the two, and that means it allows more room for themed areas, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Thorpe Park doesn't have good theming. Look at Swarm Island, for instance. This has a ton of theming all around the area to make you feel like you're in the middle of an alien invasion. You also have Nemesis Inferno that takes place inside a volcano. There's Stealth that has the race car theme, and then there's Saw the Ride, which has some fantastic theming based around the Saw films. So yeah, it may be the smaller park, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have good theming. Over to Alton Towers now, and this park it can be really hit or miss with their theming. I mean, don't get me wrong, Forbidden Valley has some fantastic theming, especially since Nemesis Reborn reopened. Alton Towers did a great job bringing this area to life with new theming, and previously they had the actors there too, which is unfortunately no longer the case, but still they were always brilliant and made the area really come alive. The theming on Toxicator is also amazing, with the screens interacting with the ride, and of course the Nemesis i2 which interacts with the train as it goes round. So going forward, I really feel like Alton Towers are going to continue going this way and upgrade their theming across the park. Having said that, in some areas that have so much potential, Alton Towers they do really lack with the theming. The Dark Forest should have that spooky horror vibe, but it really doesn't. The Q for 13, it does a good job of that, however the area itself lacks theming. It would be good to see some changes there in future. Rita doesn't fit the Dark Forest theme at all, so either the Dark Forest needs to change to a completely new theme altogether, or they could, I don't know, get rid of Rita and replace it with something more fitting. The same goes for X Sector. This area is themed to a secret government facility, but honestly, if you don't research this beforehand, you wouldn't be able to tell. The two coasters in this area fit the theme, but there's no physical theming in X Sector itself. So hopefully in future we see some improvements in this area too. So there are pros and cons for the theming at Alton Towers. I am going to give it 1 point though for the theming in Forbidden Valley because they do it really well there. However, there are many areas in that park that could be improved. And I am going to give Thorpe Park 1 point for this as well because even though there's not many areas in the park, the ones that are, they do a really good job. I must have said the word theme about 1,000,000 times in the past 2 minutes, and I can't even pronounce my THs, so that's probably really annoying. I'm really sorry. So we're still evenly matched in this battle of Alton Towers versus Thorpe Park, but we've got a few more points to cover. I was going to cover food options, but in all honesty, both theme parks have pretty mid food. I can't give a point for either of them. I mean, Alton Towers, they introduced some themed snacks, especially when the Curse of Alton Manor opens, which I think is pretty cool. But overall, I don't think the food's that great at either theme park, and it's pretty overpriced too. But finally, let's talk about the overall resort experience, and there is a clear winner here. Thorpe Park, it does have the shark cabins. There's one's themed to Hyperia now too, which I think is really cool, but that's about it. Other than the park itself, there's not really anything else, unfortunately. I've never actually stayed in one of the shark cabins at Thorpe Park, and that's because there's plenty of other hotels in the area, which in all honesty look a lot more comfortable, but it is really good that Thorpe Park still offer this experience where you can have a short break and stay over at the park. Alton Towers, on the other hand, it is a completely different story. You have the Alton Towers Hotel, the Splash Landings Hotel, the CBeebies Land Hotel, the Woodland Lodges, luxury tree houses, and stargazing pods, all of which are great hotels and experiences. I've personally stayed in the main hotel, Splash Landings, and one of the Woodland Lodges, and they were all great in their own ways. You have the restaurants in the hotels too, which offer some good food. Bars as well, which are great to chill in after a long day at the park. So there is a clear winner when it comes to overall resort experience, so I have to give a point to Alton Towers for this one. So in this battle of Alton Towers versus Thorpe Park, Alton Towers, it comes out on top, only just, but it is the winner. This is of course just my opinion. You may have a completely different one to me about all the points I've raised in this video, and if you do, then make sure to leave them down in the comments below. I would love to know which one you prefer. Do you prefer Alton Towers or do you prefer Thorpe Park? Let me know. I also sent out a poll on Instagram asking which was your favourite, and Alton Towers, it got 62% of the votes. Everybody has their own opinions and preferences on theme parks, rides and roller coasters, and I find it really interesting hearing your views. But that is it for this video. If you are visiting Alton Towers this year and you want to find out what the best rides at the park are, then click this video right here. And if you're visiting Thorpe Park and you want to find out what the most terrifying roller coasters at the park are, then click this video here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.